Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review. Still talking about how we move forward as far as Naivasha is concerned. The timeline has been set, by the way, in your copy of your People Daily, so you can get it right there and see what happens next from now all the way up until June 2021, when the IBC will hold this particular referendum within the stipulated legal guidelines. So you can get that and get fully informed on that. If you haven't gotten yourself a copy of your People Daily, you can get that. It's only 10 shillings to your phone. The number that you dial is *550 *4#. Once again, *550 *4#. Get it and get fully informed on the big story of the day. We also have a question of the day. Let's have that up on screen. Do you think Parliament will manage to build the consensus needed for the BBI process even as it moves forward? Do you think Parliament will manage to build consensus for the BBI process? We have a message coming in. Let's look at that. Yes. There will be consensus. These are the people who represent the needs of the people legislatively, as their responsibility is, and they have no choice other than to agree on what the collected views of the Mananchi by the task force states. That's Njenga Wakongo from Kihara. Keep those WhatsApp messages coming in. We'll be sampling them even at the tail end of this particular segment. Let me get back to my panel in studio. We have Andrew, Camille, Joy Mdivo in studio, Justice Minor on Skype as well. Andrew, there's a key point that has been raised by Joy, in the sense that there are all of these goodies that have been put in there, right, but the work to get those actualized comes after the referendum, legislatively, in Parliament. Right. Yes, we're being told about tax breaks and incubation centers and all of these things, but these lie at a legislative and policy level. So after all is done and dusted, you're still out there as a youth trying to fend for what you had been promised. How do we deal with that?
The first thing that has been disturbing the youth of this country is basically the pessimism that comes with a history of non-implementation of the ideas that these politicians keep talking about. So really, at this point now, what we're going to do is to compel the politicians to ensure that whatever they promise has been done and achieved. This is why we also support the inclusion of the Youth Commission. The Youth Commission is a platform for the youth to ensure that they advance their ideas and sit at the center or at the table where these things are being done. Based on that alone, the youth will be able to advance, what they want, their interests, and ensure that they are actualized. Secondly, I would want to go back to what you had asked earlier about the Deputy President being included in the process. Mm-hmm. Really, if the Deputy President was honest about this, if he really wanted to be part of it, we have seen, just as Joy says, that the people with disability had some, concerns about the report. They have been listened to, and they have been opened for a window to, include what they wanted to include there. The Deputy President has raised concerns that he feels are pertinent. These concerns as well can be brought on board and discussed even as the process continues. Okay.
But Andrew, really we can't say that. And even in this first Naivasha meeting, Amos Kimunya said he wasn't invited. So where does he go and talk about this if they do know he has concerns, but yet they'll still not invite him to have that thrashed out?
Really, I'm not sure why. Amos Kimunya stated that, but I feel from the outset the Deputy President has not been willing to be part of the process. Now, what if he's invited and declines that invitation? The other day at Bomas of Kenya, he refused to, say anything that would be positive about the process that he has been part of, even despite that he's been part of it from outside. So what we are asking the Deputy President, personally, as a person, as a youth, this is the time for the youth to reap from really what they have been promised over a long time. We can't wait any longer. We can't, go into another political process that will take another 5 months, or even beyond that because of the constitutional timelines. We might not get in the referendum, and the constitutional changes might not happen. So really, what we are asking the youth right now, the Deputy President right now, is to join the train from within, whatever the means he's going to use, because he's been part and parcel of the Jubilee government. Then talking terms with the President, as he says every other day. He should go and talk to the President and ensure that what he wants changed in the process should be done from within, so that we are able to beat the timelines, even as we seek other changes that he's proposing.
Okay, Justice, I want to bring you in on this one. As you look at the timelines given right here, is June 2021 when Jubilee implodes? Because if there's a scenario where the DP is against this particular process, this is a party leader and a deputy party leader up against each other in a referendum. Is that when we seal Jubilee's fate and it implodes next year, June?
But I want to, and I hope everybody understands that what is in display in the name of inclusivity is politics of exclusion. And that is the contradiction. In Naivasha, what was on parade, what was on display was a politics of exclusion. It is the contradiction of a typical Kenyan politics of deceit. We preach water and wallow in a sea of wine. Because if you arrive in Mombasa, in Naivasha, pretending or masquerading as trying to bring the country together, but deliberately leaves out the deputy president and a number of Tanga brigade, and in the name of bringing the country together. I think I think as a country we must begin to also call out the politics of hypocrisy in this particular charade in the name of the inclusivity. Secondly, the engineers of the falling apart of the deputy president and the president will never allow the handshake between the president and the deputy president. Remember, Chef, it is good for business. For some people, the more the deputy president and the president disagree, the more it is good for them, the more the business. There are people who wake up in the morning to praise the president and insult the deputy president, and in the evening, he gets a bahasha. As much as we have seen some people talking about the deputy president giving out handouts, some of them are the biggest beneficiaries of handouts. Only that for them, it is 100,000 bahasha. For the common man, the wheelbarrow. For the big guys, it is 200 in a bahasha. So the politics of tokenism, you cannot rule out in this country. And therefore, come by the engineers, and remember, the president may have the intention to bring the deputy president on board, but the engineers of the rift between the president and the deputy president will never allow it to happen because it is not good for them, and therefore, even before June, I see and I begin to feel like by even April, the difference will be so wide that nothing will bring the two principal in this aspect, the deputy president and the president himself together. So therefore, and in fact, finally, there are people in the BBI brigade who want to ensure that the deputy president becomes the principal of the no gate. And you can see how this thing is being driven to become a competitive referendum as opposed to a referendum that has got no contest. Because for some individuals in this country, if there will be a no and yes, it's good for them. So as much as individuals are talking about bringing the country together, behind the scene, they are working round the clock to ensure there is division in this country, that there is a contest in the referendum question, and that by June or July or August, the president and the deputy president will be north and south poles.
Joy, some people are saying that what we're witnessing right now with a possible contested referendum is really the problem with the ruling party. And some people are saying that's where the problem is. If you could solve this at Jubilee headquarters on your way to Pangani, we probably wouldn't be having all of these squabbles that we're having. So again, the buck really stopping with the president, who's a party leader, because his co-principal, his party runs a tight ship. When they say jump, it's how high. They know which direction they're supposed to go and they move. So it's that party, ruling party's politics, that's bringing all of this squabbles that we're seeing, for the citizenry to, be part of.
Jubilee imploded a long time ago. Even the question you're asking just as is unfair. Is it imploding in June 2021? There's no Jubilee
They're still
party.
trying to hold this together.
There's no Jubilee party to speak about. What you have now is a position of convenience because per the law, if you leave the party that sponsored you to be voted into whatever house you're sitting in, then of necessity you must vacate office and then allow a by-election so that you can run on a new party. That is why Aisha Jumwa is very much Tanga but very much ODM at the same time. So if you're waiting for the implosion, I guess it's at the election because nobody wants to lose a job now.
Right. So,
but for all intents and purposes, Jubilee already imploded. What you're talking about, will Jubilee, the squabbles at Jubilee end all? That horse died a long time ago. We have flogged it. It's not getting up again. So there's no one who's sorting out the mess at Jubilee. We can only expect it to get messier at Jubilee. And in this particular scenario, then the people who reap the whirlwind is ODM and Amani and the others because they have their house in order. They have their officers in place and their ships ready to sail. But all of these Jubilee politicians, I don't know where they're planning to run on when come 2022 because they decided to shipwreck their vehicles. So they're in a situation where right now they're in it because they must. Come 2022, of course, it will completely fall apart. There'll be no need for Jubilee anymore. I wonder what their game plan is. But because I'm not one of them, I will not have that headache on their behalf.
Right.
The thing that I would say is I hope Kenyans are learning that there is a direct correlation between the type of political parties that we cultivate and the kind of leadership that we have. And in this scenario, because we've always had political parties or personalities, we need to come to a place where we build parties that have got a more nationalistic outlook. So I look at a party, for example, like ODM. They have somehow managed, despite all the odds, since 2005 to date, to sort of hold together. So ODMK and ODM broke apart, because when they started coming out of the 2005 referendum, they were all ODM Kenya. But they got to some place and that fell apart, and this remained ODMK. Kalonzo was left with ODM Kenya and decided, you know what, let's baptize it Wiper. But ODM since that time have somehow managed to remain a party. It's still a big man party, but they have somehow managed to marry the big man syndrome with some structures of some sort. And I wish Kenyans would build parties with that in mind, that we need to get to a place where the systems in the party work more than the individuals in the party. I think we saw an example of this with the ouster of Ekuru Aukot from Third Way Alliance. So there are some parties there that are trying to have structure to supersede the personality. And if Kenyans can get to that place with our political party systems, then what we will see is stronger political parties in future. Now, that proposal for mixed member proportional representation, now don't go into the numbers on who's gaining what not, but that is one of the ways that makes people accountable to parties. Because what people elect is the political parties. Then the political party has a list. And so if you misbehave and you're on the party list, the party just votes to knock you off the list, and then everybody moves back up. So an example of how this happened is in South Africa, when the party voted to remove Thabo Mbeki as president and put in Jacob Zuma. So you have to realize that at that point, it did not matter what South Africans thought. It was the party that said, you know what, we put you as president and you're not doing what we wanted. So tell you what, you step aside. I think Zuma will take us where we need to go. So as Kenyans, maybe part of this BBI process will be something that will make political parties stronger by having a greater say on what happens with the representatives. Now, the question has been asked, again, let me stop unpacking the document, but let me just throw it out there, that you make the party stronger, but does that take away the voice of the voters? Because the voters voted knowing Jeff will be a representative, as will Joy, as will Andrew, as will Julius, and then now you come and say, you know what, Jeff, get out of the way, so you move everybody else up. So did they vote without? So it's one of those things where that evolution has to happen, but is it happening in the life of Jubilee right now? I think Jubilee, we are waiting for those Ghanaian pallbearers to just finish.
To come and do the dance.
They just come and do the dance and do the burial, and we just move over to the next parties, because Jubilee, I think, is done and dusted.
Andrew, something interesting that came up, and that's what some people are looking at right now, the fact that, yes, we're all talking about BBI, but it's just seeking political capital and political gain, just as was the last referendum, because from there, people made their political careers, and that's what we're seeing happening again. And this is all smoke and mirrors, but at the end of the day, it's a big boys just trying to see how politically, after June 2021, they are well placed.
I think it depends on really how you look at it, because this is a political process. Every politician will tend to take advantage of the process to gain some capital. But I would also not like us to reduce the whole process into what the politicians gain, or really what Raila gains, what Uhuru gains, or what any other politician gains. We should look at really the meat of the whole thing. What mischief does it intend to cure? Does it intend to bring the youth on board? Does it intend to cure the problem of the the persons with disability? Does it intend to cure the problem of women? Really not even women, but gender. So it has been reduced into a conversation of whether Raila wants to be president or Uhuru wants to push William Ruto away. And that is very unfortunate, very unfair. We continue to talk to people and tell them the whole report is very wide. There's the legislative bit, there's the policy bit, there's the referendum bit, as they call it. And we should look at what really interests us, or what really would serve our interest when the report passes, or when it goes down to the people and gets the vote. So it's very unfortunate that we can reduce the talking to, what the politicians get. But be that as it may, we also need to understand that politicians really are just politicians. And it is very unfortunate when we talk about politicians and we have to look at the politicians, the fashion of William Ruto and his colleagues, who by nature have come up with a system of putting, us versus them, putting us, some people aside and putting the other people also this other side to, cause some violence in the mind, cause some violence, which is also very literal in that sense. And it's very unfortunate that William Ruto has, taken advantage of this process to whip the emotions of young people and to, have them excited and angered by the whole process. And we have to call him out and tell him that he has to be part of the process and ensure that whatever he wants to do for the young people must be in an institutionalized manner, where when we talk about the wheelbarrows, there has to be an institution that ensures that wheelbarrows are into existence even when William Ruto is not deputy president anymore. When we talk about, giving people handouts, these handouts must be looked at in the sense that we need the young people to pay their help on time. We need young people to run their businesses, and not just going out there and telling them these people are talking about adding 5 more seats at the top and leaving you out there. We need to talk to them and tell them there are institutions. There's a reason why you pay taxes. These taxes are supposed to be channeled to an institution that we should be able to hold accountable and to ensure that your interests are well taken care of.
Andrew, even before I go to justice on that, because some people are saying it's only bad when Ruto does it, because when Ruto goes out and gives a donation, then he needs institutions to do this.
Yeah.
But when the president and the PM go and give border riders 3 million, well, that's okay. That's empowerment. And they're like, okay, why the double standards on the same kind of actions that's done in a particular area?
The problem, in my view, does not come when I go to church and give part of my my offering to the church. The problem comes when I want to use this to advance a political agenda. When you go to the church and give 1 million shillings and attach that 1 million with the message that there is a side of this government that is pro the church and there's a side of this government that hates the church. That is not what we are looking at. We're in a process that seeks to bring everybody on board. When William Ruto goes to the youth and tell them that you are the poor and we have the rich who have been, stealing from you for years and years, which is very debatable because William Ruto is on record to have done very grievous things to the young people and even his colleagues in government. So really, we have to look at it from the point that we need to bring everybody on board, not the way that William Ruto does, that even if he gives out something, he gives out with the intention of whipping the emotion of the person who receives it against his opponent. We have to look at that.
Okay, very quickly, I want us to just switch gears slightly. Justice, I want to come to you on this one. You have 5 minutes to go, even as you wind this up. I want us to look at an interesting story that broke yesterday. It's making front page news on various dailies. You can find it on the front page of the PD. Mystery as wanted lawyer gives self up at ICC, makes front and center of the Star, and they are calling it panic in Ruto camp as lawyer surrenders. DP was not acquitted, and the judges agreed case could be revived with new evidence. Paul Gishero, the lawyer in question, gave himself up even after High Court quashed extradition. What's your making of this story, and more importantly, this action happening now?
I think one can easily read between the lines, and I've got my own suspicion as to the timing of Paul's so-called surrender to the ICC, and I want to strongly suspect that he may have been prompted by individuals who are anti-Ruto to surrender to ICC with some information that may lead to the reopening of Ruto case. And I believe that an individual who was under the protection of the court, because there was a court order that was protecting this individual from surrendering to ICC, and then suddenly he comes out and lands in ICC, having surrendered. I think there is more than meets the eye, and I believe he may have been encouraged by some individuals. And we have had a number of individuals saying Ruto will not be in the ballot in 2022. I hope my suspicions are not right, but I don't know whether the coincidence of the mantra of Ruto will not be in the ballot in 2022 and Paul Kisheru's appearance in ICC is something to do with this song that has been sung by a number of people severally in political rallies. So I want to believe it is Paul Paul's own volition to go to ICC, and he was not prompted by an individual who could be chasing the idea of ensuring that Ruto do not appear in the ballot box in 2022. Finally, can I make my closing remarks, Chair?
Yes, you can.
Yes, maybe my closing remarks is of course about the main topic of the day, the constitutional evangelism that I would call every president who is serving his second term would pursue something that I don't know whether there exists such a word, but I've just imagined perhaps it exists. And in the constitutional evangelism, we are chasing vanity as a country. That there is someone who can come with a document that will cure all our problems bedeviling this country is to expect too much from our politicians. I can tell you for free, if there is no goodwill to implement the 2022 Constitution, to imagine that once we pass this document and it becomes the new Constitution, that the same characters who have not implemented the 2022 Constitution will then become so magical, so nice, so good, and then begin to implement the upcoming Constitution. I want to take that particular promise of implementation of the BBI that will maybe ultimately become a constitution with a pinch of salt. I do not believe, and by the way, the problem medieval in this country is the politics of dissent, the politics of dishonest. Even in the manner in which we are carrying out the BBI, and of course the draft report from BBI, you can see, you can feel, you can weigh the amount of dishonest in the whole evangelism of trying to retract our constitution. A lot of dissent, a lot of dishonest. So I don't believe there is anything that will cure the maladies if we do not change our values, if we do not change how we behave, if we do not stop the politics of deception and deceit. Nothing will cure this country. No document. In Tanzania, they have never changed their constitution. The most homogeneous country in Africa today, as we speak, is a country that is called Tanzania. He did not ready to amend the constitution. The only thing he really did was to run the country in a very homogeneous country. He did not give boys from his village jobs. He did not make some of his villagers the trillionaires of his country. And that is the problem of this country. Once you are sent to power, some of the boys from your village become trillionaires, billionaires. They are your ministers. They are some of the most lucrative positions in government are taken by the boys from your village. And that is what we need to address. The manner in which we carry the governance in this country.
Okay, let me bring it to studio. Joy, very quickly, I want you to touch very quickly on this Paul Gishero, handing himself to the ICC. The warrant of arrest was in 2015. He's decided to do that now. So very quickly, your assessment of this, even as we wrap this up. More than meets the eye? I
think I agree with Julius. There's more than meets the eye because the warrant of arrest was issued against him and Bet. It was issued in 2015. Judge Luka Kimaru weighed in on the matter and said that Kenya was under no obligation to extradite them. We're in a situation where international travel right now is greatly curtailed because of COVID. So for him to find his way all the way to The Hague at this moment in where we are as a country, and if you realize his implication or the way he's being implicated, if a case is to be reopened, is only the case against DP Ruto and Joshua Sang, and not the other 6 who went to The Hague. So I do read some mischief in it. It doesn't seem like it was just, I sat in the house and thought to myself, you know what, I can't live with myself anymore. Let me go to The Hague. There must be something at play. But in this particular situation, it depends on how the ICC also responds to it. Because they may have a conversation with him and determine, you know what, it's not worth our time. Too much time has passed, or this Kenya case is not worth it anymore. So it's a space to watch, definitely. But like I agree with Julius, honestly, you'd have to be extremely naive to think, his conscience just caught up with him. He's a lawyer. We don't have consciences. We are famous for that.
Andrew, very quickly as we close, you have a minute to go because you are the spokesperson for Baraza la Vijana as well. I want us to speak on that even as we wind up because with a population that is majority youth, really anything BBI is about them. What's your message to them as we close?
Thank you so much for that opportunity, Jeff. I think I would like to tell this to the young people of this country. We have been so far at the periphery for a very long time, but an opportunity has presented itself for us to sit at the focal point where decisions are being made. This is an opportunity for us to grab and run away with it. Let us come together under the tag of Baraza la Vijana. Let us work together. Let us, advance our interests right from within. Baraza la Vijana is a group that brings together youth from all political parties across the political divide without any form of discrimination. Okay. Our next event is going to be in Kiambu, and we are going to be inviting youths into a very well-structured dialogue. We don't want to discuss things that ought to be in the BBI. We will first want to discuss what is in the BBI that is there for us, from where then we shall press hard to ensure that they are given a chance at the table. Okay, that's a wind it up as far as concerned.
It's not just for the youth. Kenyans need to interact with this document more intimately. If you depend on what the politicians tell you, you'll have a lot of half-truths and whole lies. Read the document for yourself as much as you can. Understand as much of it as you can, so that you're not taken for a ride, but you're given facts.
And equally, it would be beautiful for people like Joy, who have been sitting deep at the Secretariat, to ensure that the document is translated even to the local languages, so that people are able to read it.
You'll have that discussion when you go to the break.
Thank you.
Andrew Camille, thank you so much for your time this morning. Jem Livo, thank you so much for making time to be in the show, as always. Join the conversation via Skype. Justice Minor, asante sana for making time this morning. Thank you so much for that. Don't forget, if you haven't gotten yourself a copy of your PD, it's only 10 shillings. The number you dial is *550*4#, and you get it to your phone, courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. Short break, we're back on the other side as we get interactive. Good morning.